Guys, before you go on to this clip, please don't forget to press the subscribe button for more content like this. We post all our clips on this channel from the podcast. I know you're going to enjoy this quite a lot. Let me get this straight. You were saying that the UPA 1 and 2 have done better economically than the last two sessions, the last two sort of last 10 years under the BJP. Is that accurate?
I'm saying they did very well.
Okay.
And I also say that these last 10 years, to an extent, have been a missed opportunity. India could have done much better on the momentum from UPA 1, UPA 2.
Okay.
I'm not saying India didn't do well. We are the 5th largest economy in the world. Who can I credit? I have to credit the Prime Minister.
Right.
Of course, he did a good job.
Right.
But there are opportunities where we failed in.
Right.
Some of them being in future, in Web 3.0, we have no roadmap. Fintech AI, we have no roadmap. All your fintechs today, AI fintechs, are being registered in Dubai and Singapore. Everyone.
Right.
Not one is being registered here. You now have the startup winter. Now you can say it's a global problem. Indians are facing a massive problem as well. So you don't have an issue. Your manufacturing is not up to the mark. After COVID, manufacturing shifted to Vietnam. It hasn't shifted to India.
Yes.
Yeah, the one odd Apple factory you may tom-tom about, that also came 2013 when Congress was there. Let's be honest. And I'm not running that down. Of course, there's been assembly of mobiles. I'm not running the achievements. Nobody is 100% bad.
Right.
Of course, this government has done some amount of good.
Right.
Has it done enough? No, it hasn't. It could have done a lot more. And let me tell you one thing. Your GDP is going to grow on your service industry, correct? The service industry is going to be your future. If you want people to get out of agriculture as landless laborers and come into the cities or into their villages, what are the youngsters going to do? They're going to start spas, they're going to start gyms, they're going to start restaurants, they're going to start bars, they're going to start, various service industries or something related to IT, a podcast channel. If you moral police people, if your government gets too intrusive, if you make laws that means businessmen can go into jail for bona fide mistakes, your service industry will not grow. Some of your ED laws are terrible for businessmen. If I were to put a gun on your head and say, if you make a mistake in this podcast, you go in jail, because even copyright is under ED today, you will never grow. You'll always be under pressure.
Wow, I am already feeling it.
Yeah, I'm serious about it. What is our policy for Web 3.0? We have the highest internet shutdown in the world, more than Ukraine, which is facing a war. How do you become the Web 3.0 destination for the world like we were for Web 2.0 if you don't have a policy on that? How can, whenever government wants shut down internet? So I think these are some of the things that we need to address very, very seriously as a country. You can't have a government that's so intrusive. Uttarakhand, under that UCC, which to an extent I support UCC, they now said you have to register who you're living in it. What the hell? So is a police guy going to come into my bedroom and check who is with who?
Well,
it's compulsory. You can say, look, if you want to be in a live-in, register.
Right.
It should be voluntary. Now, say, okay, if you're below 21, we'll inform your parents. Who the hell is the government?
Yeah, man.
Now,
that part I do not like, yeah.
So now, think about it. Say there's a young podcaster, 19, 20, 21, 22. He's he's chilling in Uttarakhand. He wants to work from Uttarakhand. He wants to get into a relationship, maybe, live a casual life.
Right.
Now, he's going to be under police pressure if he's living with his friends. What if you're living in but not in a sexual relationship?
Right.
What if you're in a polygamous relationship as a guy or a girl, but you don't want to commit and both couples are open to it?
Right.
Why is the police entering your bedroom?
Well, I think the polygamy issue is a little bit of a straw man because that's very, very rare. But I think
I'm not talking about marriage. I'm talking about open relationships.
Even open relationships.
Youngsters.
Yeah.
They're not married and perhaps they don't want to get married because they want to just be with different people.
Right.
Why should the police get in?
I think, fundamentally the fact that my sex life is to be policed in any way by the state is just horrible and horrendous. And it's the starting of a very bad situation that we've seen with Islamic countries time and again.
Iran, Saudi Arabia.
Even Pakistan. Right.
Now, add to this the fact that they're moral policing what you eat.
Right.
Dude, the government's in your bedroom, the government's in your kitchen. What the hell? And these are cops. And how do you know that these, let's say it's a kosher live-in relationship.
Right.
I don't want to offend anybody, so Hindu guy, Muslim girl.
Right.
Let's make
Nobody's
it.
offended. Nobody's offended by this.
Okay.
Right. Huh?
Now, how do you know that? And you're going to inform the parents. Why? And now, how do you know that data is not going to be, you have no data protection laws, not going to be leaked to those vigilante groups, Muslim vigilante groups, Hindu vigilante groups to attack people?
Right.
They're going to be at your bedroom?
Right.
Why would you have something like this that makes you open to threats? What if it's two people from different castes?
Fair point.
And how do you know that this doesn't go to vigilante groups?
And almost all things of this nature are prone to fanaticism. Because eventually
100%.
the loudest voice is the fanatical voice and people align with the fanatics. People don't understand the slippery slope argument in politics with this kind of stuff is super real.
Absolutely.
So I'm with you on that. But is your criticism socio-cultural in the sense that there's a lack of freedom that's being developed through cultural means and then being pushed into laws? Or is your criticism more economic?
Both.
Both.
Both of it.
Which one is more primary? Or which one do you think should Congress take up?
Both. But without cultural freedom, without democratic freedom, you cannot have economic prosperity. It's impossible. The most prosperous nations in the world are democratic nations. Period.
Well, China.
Well, China's collapsing now, and we know lack of transparency. We now know what's happened with their real estate sector. We now know their GDP is collapsing. Ultimately, dictatorial countries, lack of democratic countries will always collapse. Only democracies survive in the long run.
Well, I don't know who I was talking to, but I think two of the top 5 countries economically are Russia and China, and neither of them are democratic.
True.
So,
but I agree with that. But look at the Chinese economy today. And I am telling you, what Indians admired about the Chinese economy, only as long as 10 years ago, the strong armamenship, the lack of the government will to do what it wants, the lack of public consent needed. Today, with all of that, what is collapsing fastest in China? One, their educom and the IT industry. Second, their real estate industry. The two things Indians admired most is completely collapsing. Ultimately, which dictatorial country has survived over a long term? Over that, every democratic country, of course they go through the ups and downs. They recover because everything is transparent in public domain. Without democracy, you cannot have progress. Let me ask people who love strong leaders and dictatorial, how many people will shift permanently to China or Russia? And how many will shift to America? Why do Indians want to make a beeline for America? Why London? Why do other countries?
Right.
Why are they making a beeline for China and Russia? Because ultimately, here you want a strong man, here you want the government to rule, but you want to go to America. The most number of Indians have given up their passports in the last 10 years. Why? The most number of Indians are trying to run away from India to go to which country? The report came out recently.
United States, yeah.
Why? If everything is so good here, why do you want to go there? How many people do you know of who've given up American citizenship and become Indian citizens? You might know one odd case, not in numbers. So the one odd case is not an exception because I know when this podcast comes out, I'll have one tweet saying, "Inhone chhod diya." That's one odd. That's fine.
Yeah, right.
The exception, I'm not talking exception. The rule is Indians want to go there.
Right.
If we are the 5th largest economy in the world, which we are, and I'm proud of it, why do we want to go there? Because we are not the 5th largest per capita wise. So better growth is there, more freedom is there. Why are youngsters leaving India today if everything's so good? Why are they even registering in other countries? And I said this on another podcast and I'm saying this today. Most people who have more than 70, 80 crores in liquidity are buying a house in Dubai. Come with me to Dubai.
No, 100%.
Come
That's
with me to Dubai.
super true. Yeah.
Everyone from Delhi will be there. Why?
Yeah.
Why do you want one foot in Dubai?
Yeah, why?
Because
I thought it's a real estate opportunity.
Real estate opportunity, 2 hours away from India.
Right.
You get a golden visa.
Huh.
If something happens here, you can be in Dubai.
It's like the best city in India is Dubai. That's
The
how
best
I
city
said.
in India is Dubai.
Huh.
It's the best. It's a better version of Delhi and Mumbai today.
Yes.
A cleaner version.
Agreed.
And you get everything there.
And even though that is not a democratically free country.
That's not a democratically free country, but people have put their option there.
Right.
They've just put one option there because you can't get a citizenship there. But those who can give up their citizenship are going to democratic countries. That is the problem.
See, you said a lot of things and let me be very clear, right? I've seen a tendency to fall towards authoritarianism in sort of this new political upsurge, this pro-BJP upsurge, and not just pro-BJP, but in general. Jo abhi naya youth, the now 18-year-olds, right? 10 years younger than me. I've seen some of that authoritarian tendency. Sometimes on Twitter, I'll see stuff like, we need censorship on Instagram kind of nonsense. And I'm like, do you know what you're starting? So I want to make it very clear. I'm very pro-democracy and I'm very pro-transparency. I think a self-respecting man cannot desire somebody else to rule over them.
Correct.
Right. However, the idea that democracy is the best form of government is something I've come to intellectually question. And so you said something to the effect of ki democratic countries live the longest. The longest living democratic country is either France, which had an interruption right after its first democratic spell, or America, which is 1756.
1756.
So that's 250, 270 years. There were monarchic countries that lived for way longer.
True.
Right? So like to say that democracy sort of ensures the longest it's the most self-respecting regime, right? Like, I feel the best in a very free country. And I also feel Indians who have this kind of envy towards democracy do not truly understand that when they're sitting in Los Angeles doing whatever the fuck they want.
Exactly.
And nobody comes to say, "Kyun kar raha hai sale ye?"
Exactly.
It is a completely novel feeling. This is what Indians get hooked to when they go to America and Canada.
True.
Right? And there are problems in US and Canada, uncomparable. It's not the same.
Exactly.
It's not the same. Right? The second thing you said is, why don't Indians go to
But
Russia?
just a correction.
Yeah.
I didn't say the longest living countries. I said the longest economic surviving countries.
Fair.
And over 200 years, both America and France, with whatever interruptions they've had economically, have prospered. Democratic countries bring more people out of poverty than dictatorial countries.
Sure.
Dictatorial countries, even when, let's say India, the Mughal rule, which everyone loves to bash, and I also don't, I'm not a fan of it.
Right.
Where our GDP was 25% of the world, we had a lot of poverty. Dictatorial countries never bring people out of poverty. China has a lot of poverty. North Korea has a lot of poverty. Syria has a lot of poverty. Afghanistan has a lot of poverty. Whether they progress or no, they may progress, but the poverty remains.
Right.
Democratic countries bring masses of people out of poverty. And that is true in 200 years of America and France, England and other democratic countries.
If I were to do a quick statistical, heuristical, like jaldi ek analysis karu main, I think the number of people brought out of poverty in the first 30 years, which is 47 to 77, let's say, before Morarji Desai came into power, which is all Congress. And then if I did the last 10 years, I think the math would dictate that more people were brought out of poverty in the last 10 years than the first 30.
Last 20 years.
Last 20 years.
Manmohan Singh got more people out of poverty than Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi says 24 crore people. But that's because the economic reforms took place. So, of course, it's not just democracy. You can't be a closed economy. You have to be a global economy.
Sure.
So, that is the criteria. Both America and France are global economies. Of course, you have to be a global economy.
You have to export.
You have to export, you have to allow people in, you have to allow talent in, all of that. You have to be an open country. That happened after 91. So then if you break it down, more people came out of poverty post-91 than pre-91.
Sure.
And post-91, most of it was Congress, perhaps even the Gandhis. That's not the issue that we're talking about. That I agree with. So we're talking about democracy. But economic model, you have to be an open country. In fact, India should be more open right now to get more people faster out of poverty. This 24 crores that Prime Minister Modi's government says it got out of poverty is also disputable. But I give them credit. 24 crore nahi to 18 crore, 17 crore. ठीक है. I am not going to sit on your podcast and say the Prime Minister did nothing. Of course, people are coming out of poverty. Of course, there is some amount of growth. How else can you be the fifth largest? You've gone from 11 to 5.
Right.
So there is growth.
Yes.
That growth will trickle down. So if you have a podcast studio, you will give a job to 3 people.
Right.
I agree.
Right.
So there, but I'm saying the pace has slowed down. The pace was better at Manmohan Singh's time.
गाइज, अगर ये सुन के आपको भी लगा वाओ, मैं भी ऐसे सोचना चाहता हूँ, मैं सीखना चाहता हूँ ऐसे कैसे सोचते हैं, तो क्या करना है? सब्सक्राइब का बटन, सब्सक्राइब.